To many people in Britain, our countryside is a source of great pride. But few realise how damaged it really is. Vast forests teeming with life once stretched across our land. Wild boar foraged in the undergrowth. Bears roamed the woods. Beavers swam in our lakes. And the howling of wolves echoed through the hills. Today is a very different story.
We've lost all of our predators. Our last big predator in the UK is the badger.
We've been missing top predators for hundreds of years. In mainland Europe, continental Europe, predators have been returning by themselves. That can't happen in Britain because we're an island.
Some say that reintroducing our missing predators could help to restore balance. Up in the Scottish Highlands, Allerdale Reserve has become synonymous with this concept.
Allerdale echoes a myriad glens in Scotland. Big country, open space, and superficially to the casual visitor it's wilderness, it's wild, it's everything that we imagine Scotland might be, but it doesn't take much to pick across the surface of the peat to realise that a lot of the landscape is denuded.
You can't just take a landscape like this and keep it absolutely pure as it is now. It doesn't work. We've done enough to ruin these in decades gone by. We should be surrounded by trees now, and we're not.
400 years ago, wolves would have patrolled these hills. Overgrazing from increased deer populations has left the landscape treeless and bare. Since purchasing the estate in 2003, Paul Lister has gone to great lengths to repair some of this damage.
What's been very important here is the support we've had from the Scottish Rural Development team in actually replanting or trying to replant some of the native woodlands. We planted 800,000 trees within the two valleys we have here at Allerdale. On top of that, we've brought back red squirrels. Those squirrels have come back now and they're probably into their hundreds. Everyone's excited to see squirrels. Just imagine how excited when people come up here one day and see wolves.
The culmination of Paul's ambitious plan is to welcome wolves back to Scotland.
Wolves very specifically are a fundamental architect of change. They feed upon creatures which are themselves feeding on a habitat and denuding it, the deer. They will continually harry and move those groups of animals, and as a consequence you're not going to get the focused grazing and browsing that occurs currently. Equally, you're not going to have to go out and take the number of deer off the hill that's currently conducted with culls and stalking in order to encourage a mixed habitat.
To many, the very notion of a wolf reintroduction fills them with dread.
NFU Scotland is the leading agricultural organisation in Scotland. We think rewilding as a principle has some value. It's clear that it's inspired a lot of people, engaged people's imaginations, but we're not in a North American type situation with vast expanses of wild land.
To reintroduce large predators into such a small island, to me it would be like releasing killer whales in a swimming pool when they should be released in the Mediterranean. It is tiny. We're toiling to keep the wildcat alive at the minute. And to introduce another major predator is just to take the heat off these other animals. We need to learn to look after what we've got.
Whilst Paul confronts his opposition, the arrival of another long-lost animal to Scotland has sparked controversy of its own. In 2009, 4 beaver families were reintroduced to Knapdale Forest in Argyll. The trial aimed to determine whether beavers should become a permanent addition to Britain's wildlife.
Beavers can encourage a diversity of species in a number of ways. The creation of pools of still lying water are great breeding grounds for fish and lots of other invertebrate life. They can also encourage many other species on land when they are creating a clearing of trees where the sunlight can get into the forest floor, and that encourages a wider variety of plant life to grow. And then in turn that has an effect on up the food chain.
There's thousands of species of plants, insects, various forms of birds that really only live in harmony with the beaver.
Like the proposed wolf reintroduction, the Beaver Trial is no stranger to hostility.
I think the main concerns of having beavers back in Scotland were the misconception that beavers eat fish. They don't, they're completely vegetarian. It's another common misconception that all beavers will build dams and flood areas, and that's proven in Knapdale not to be the case.
The 5-year trial is now complete, and the organisers wait anxiously to hear whether or not the government will allow the beavers to stay. The thought of large predators inhabiting our island induces much more fear than beavers, but some feel that one species can overcome this barrier.
The Eurasian lynx is one of the predators that used to live in Scotland. It's got quite a wide geographic distribution over much of northern Asia and Europe. A member of the cat family, a stubby tail, tufted ears, and it's a solitary ambush hunter.
There is no records of lynx attacking humans, even children. It just doesn't happen. They're not going to come in towns or cities or people's gardens. Lynx just aren't like that. They're ghosts in the forest. They keep away from people.
There are no big bad lynx fairy tales. It's a relatively unknown creature. So for that reason, there are fewer barriers to its return. Of the 3 top predators that used to live here, the lynx, the wolf and the bear, the lynx is perhaps the simplest and most straightforward option.
As the fight to bring lynx back to Britain rages, another formidable predator is already making a dramatic return to Wales. Pine martens.
The pine marten it's a mustelid. It's a member of the weasel family. It's a very omnivorous carnivore, so it'll eat a lot of berries, insects, fruit, and it will take small mammals and birds as well.
Although they still endure in Scotland, pine martens have all but died out in England and Wales. To combat this, the Vincent Wildlife Trust translocated 20 pine martens from Scotland to a suitable site in Wales.
The reason that it's important to do this kind of work is the pine marten is a top woodland predator. So by bringing it back into the woodlands of Wales, where it's a native anyway, then we're starting to restore some of the complex relationships that would exist here anyway, which make the ecosystem strong. They were captured up in Scotland into the soft release pen, and then a week later they were released with their radio collars on, and we tracked them thereafter, really.
So we're just going to come and find a suitable tree at the minute where we can winch up the den box to it. The reason we do this is that a lot of the trouble that pine martens have is breeding and finding safe places to have their kits. So we help them out because there's not a lot of ancient woodland left that has cavities that they can safely nest in. So we use one of these den boxes instead.
So that is not going anywhere.
Camera traps are motion activated, and checking them regularly can help the Trust to gain insight into the pine marten's secretive lives.
Oh, there we go, we've got a pine marten. So she's got both a GPS collar and a normal radio tracking collar, so when we get her collar back in June we can see exactly where she's been, which is really exciting.
Many of the techniques used to monitor the pine martens would be adopted if larger predators made a similar return.
The long-term goal is to have a self-sustaining population of pine martens. Ideally, we'd also like to raise the profile of carnivores and the plight of carnivores, because for centuries now we've persecuted carnivores and villainized them to the point where we are missing a number of them, and the ones that we do have are seen in a very negative light.
I think public perception is still a big issue. Yes, on one hand, people are slightly fearful of wolves, for example. I can tell you wolves are nothing to be fearful of. The number of instances of wolves attacking people is negligible. You're more likely to be attacked by a shark than by a wolf.
Paul Lister knows that protective measures would still need to be put in place for the public to accept his wolf idea.
We're talking about a secure fence. In Africa, they keep elephants, rhinos, buffalo, lions and so on behind fences. So I don't think there'd be any problem with keeping wolves behind fences here, which would stop any predation on livestock. Most of the wolves will be somehow satellite tracked, so we'll know where they are. So if there's any problems, we can recover them. But it's not like they're all going to be parked up by the fence waiting to get out. It's 50,000 acres. It's a huge area for them.
Ironically, it is not the wolves that have created Paul's biggest hurdle, but his fence. In the eyes of the law, fencing off Allerdale would turn it into a zoo, and it would be illegal to mix predators and prey within it. Ramblers are also outraged by the notion of a 3-metre fence cutting off their access.
I completely understand people wanting the right to roam over these beautiful landscapes and mountains. In fact, I encourage it. As far as I'm concerned, currently few people enjoy these remote lands, few people, because there's not a great attraction here. If you were to bring back large carnivores and other species, there would be more of an attraction and more people would come. So instead of having 300 to 500 people walking through Allerdale a year, there'd potentially be up to 20,000 visitors a year.
Keeping wolves behind fences could dispel a lot of fear. Lynx, on the other hand, would be truly wild.
One of the major problems we might have if lynx are introduced is if they start killing livestock, we'll be the ones called upon to shoot them. We end up the bad ones, so it's difficult.
Lynx is perhaps not quite as problematic from a sheep farming point of view as wolves, but certainly if you look at Norway, where they have a combination of wolves and lynx and wolverine and bears, the level of predation there is very high, and therefore farmers in Scotland listening to their cousins across the water in Norway are rightly saying, my goodness, could we end up in that kind of a situation here?
In Norway, it's an extensively wooded country. The forests are not fenced in any way, and sheep have free range over all the woodlands there. Scotland's a different case to Norway. Most sheep are out on the open hill. Many of our woodlands are fenced at the moment to exclude deer. And if sheep husbandry was amended a little bit to keep them away from the edge of unfenced woodlands, a lot of the impacts of possible predation would be avoided in the first place.
What lynx will do is reduce deer numbers, and we have got far too many deer in this country. And that's why I think lynx is a must. It's a no-brainer to bring back to this country.
Ecologically, the benefits of a predator reintroduction are clear. But will society be able to change how it views these animals?
Now we come into a sort of social sphere where people fear wildlife. And that's a terrible thing, because most of those fears are completely unfounded.
There's a growing constituency of interest in this. And because there's examples elsewhere, like reintroducing wolves to Yellowstone and other reintroductions in different parts of the world, and forest recovery beginning to happen, there's growing support for this.
I think the time is right now. Certainly environmentally, I think we're all very conscious of what we've been doing to the planet, and it would be nice to do something that will help reverse that.
I think that we are ready to see the big picture, to embrace it for what it truly is, which is balance and harmony.
I see this as a great opportunity to show not just Scotland, not just the British Isles, but the world, the potential of rewilding.
For now, advocates of predator reintroductions wait to hear the government's decision regarding the beavers. If they are given permission to stay permanently, then that could pave the way for more reintroductions, and the vacant spot at the top of the food chain could be reclaimed.